DTFF.
Once again, here is Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football with your hosts, Dustin Lunt and Jake Trowbridge.
Hey, welcome back to DTFF, everyone. Happy Tuesday evening if you're joining us live. If not, well, happy evening, morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you may be listening to us. We have a great show here. As always, we'll do a little mailbag show. Got some questions answered for you with all the skill and fantasy football knowledge we possess. But before we get into it, Jake, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing as good as somebody who is 2 days away from the NFL draft can be doing. I'm excited to the point of near palpitations. That's how I'm doing. How are you?
I am the same. I am so excited. I can't wait till Thursday night. Ooh, it's going to be so good. It's like second Christmas. I love it.
Especially because we have an important bit of business out of the way that needed to happen pre-draft, which we will talk about shortly, but not at this very moment.
That's right. That's what we call a teaser, folks, in the business.
It's a rough teaser. That's not even a gentle teaser.
Yeah. So, draft. I'm excited. All things draft. It's going to be fun. I actually just watched Draft Day last night to prepare myself for it. It was great. Love that movie. I love it's the only official NFL sanctioned movie. So you get all the logos and facilities and everything. That's really cool. I'm fully jazzed up for the draft.
You're Costnered up and ready for it.
I am.
I love it.
But Jake, what are you drinking this evening?
Well, I went into the fridge and saw an alarming number of IPAs in there. I don't even know where these came from. I don't remember buying them, but I did. I know I did, but I found this one that seems to be less egregious maybe than some of the other ones in there, which is a Hinterland, which is from Green Bay, brewed right on Lombardi Avenue. So, in advance of the draft, I had to give some Hinterland love, but it's called an Evergreen Occasion IPA. It seems to be like their version of an everyday IPA, kind of a chill one. And you know what? I'm pleasantly surprised. It did not snap my tongue, not once. And I've had several sips at this point. So I'm pretty excited about this one. What are you drinking?
Nice. I am drinking homebrew this evening. I've got my Imperial Stout, trying to empty out the keg. And I know it's like late April, so it's really just been holding on there. So trying to, like I said, empty out the keg. I plan on doing a brew day here soon to get ready for the summer. Spoiler, I'm doing a Mexican lager since that is like my beer of choice right now. So I'm like, let's just try to brew one of those. That'll be fun.
It's so good. It's so good. I there's no better style to me in these months where it gets a little heat in the air, but just a little bit. Like there's just something about that's really refreshing, and I can't wait personally. Assuming that you'll let me try some. That is, I shouldn't just make the assumption. Okay.
Oh no, I brew beer to share, not to drink all myself. I mean, I love to drink, but I don't need that much beer. Let's be honest.
Thank goodness. Well, that's fantastic. I understand you're going to be drinking a little bit more tonight, though, than just that beer. Is that correct?
I am. I'm trying to get these beer bets paid off here. So I've got one more. Going to pay it off this week. This one, I said that Tommy Tremble was going to be top 15 tight end in points per game, and he was not.
We don't need to elucidate on that anymore, I don't think.
No, he was not a thing at all. He was just not, period. So yes. Here's to you, Jake. You're an amazing fantasy football prognosticator / genius. Cheers, my friend.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. And thank you, Fireball, for supplying Dustin with the fuel that he needs to give me my props. So
That's right. And that was the
wonderful.
official last bit of Fireball in my house. So Fireball, if you are listening and you want to send some my way, I would be more than happy for that.
Send this man a bottle already, Fireball, or two for that matter. You got any
That's
different
right.
varietals? Send them all his way. He'll advertise the hell out of them. He's
That's
going to be
right.
wrong plenty more times in the future. You will get your name on air plenty of times. This is done for the sake of, this is how we lure in advertisers, Dustin. I'm not saying this as a slight to you. This is just part of the game that we got to play.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll let it slide. Just this one time.
Good. I appreciate that. What we cannot let slide ever is when we have a new drunk trade. So, do we want to get into it?
Let's do it.
Drunk, hammer, drunk.
Drunk trade of the week.
This week's drunk trade, I'm excited to talk about. It's from Reddit. We went back to Reddit. Welcome back to the podcast Reddit. This one comes from user environmental ad 844. That's a long name. I don't know. I guess there were 843 other environmental ads on Reddit. But they received Lamar Jackson for the rookie 101 and the rookie 107 picks in Superflex.
Oh,
now, with that information, I thought, what a braggart, right? Just sending in just to be like, look at how good I do when I drunk trade. Now, they don't believe that to be accurate. So here's the full context. This was about 5 weeks ago, they think. They say, I woke up the next morning and was driving to play 9 holes of golf, that is, when I got the notification on my phone and see the sleeper notification. A trade is now pending. I got all excited because I love the action. I open my phone and see my 2 firsts in the trade and die a little on the inside. At least it wasn't the worst because I desperately needed a QB. Me, 0, drunk me, 1. They say. That's a little bit more negative than I thought this was going to be with the initial info. So, Dustin, do you feel more negative like they do?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say he really overpaid or they really overpaid for this. I mean, I think 2 firsts is kind of the minimum you're going to have to pay. The 101 hurts. I mean, I'm assuming that was their pick and they earned the 101. So that one hurts a little bit. I mean, even if you wanted to trade back, if you didn't want to take Bijan because you're in a rebuild, trade back to the 102 or 103, hell, even the 104 and pick up some extra picks would have been the better move here. But Lamar is a very good quarterback when he's healthy, when he plays. I think he'll probably end up in Baltimore again for this season, at least. After the season, who knows? But I think he's not going to sit out and miss a season. So you got yourself a hell of a quarterback. Is it a little bit of a steep price? Yes. But I mean, it's not outrageous by any means either.
I think that's a soft, even way of putting it. I think that this is a great trade. I think that this is an absolutely wonderful trade. I think that the red flags about Lamar Jackson are a little bit overstated at this point. And in a super flex league, I understand the appeal of rookie picks. I get it. I really do. That 101 could be amazing. But is it going to give you what Lamar Jackson does at a position that you desperately needed at quarterback? There's only so few elite quarterbacks in Dynasty, in Superflex. To be able to get one of those, I would say 6, if you're being generous, maybe 7 and 8. Guys, I do it. So I think it's a completely fair one, and I'm not that bummed on their behalf. I'll be honest.
No, and Lamar is one of those quarterbacks that has the potential to be a number 1 overall quarterback.
Yes.
If it breaks right. Like we've seen it. He's been incredible. There's nothing to say he can't do it again. So yeah, I mean, we've seen way worse drunk trades on here. Like I said, I would have rather have seen them try to trade back, but this isn't about logical trades. This is drunk trades. So
That's right.
considering the context, that he doesn't remember doing this trade, I think it worked out fairly well for him.
Can we talk about the fact that they were going to play 9 holes early in the morning after drinking, obviously enough to get them to make a trade that they didn't remember making? That's honestly some level of dedication that I don't have to the sport. So
Absolutely.
kudos to them for having to physically drive somewhere to go play golf after a night of drinking. So you got that. You won that part at least for yourself. So kudos. Environmental ad 844. That was a good one.
Absolutely. Well, let's get on to this news here that is draft related that we teased a few minutes ago here. Finally, the clouds broke open. Sunshine is laying down on the great state of Wisconsin. Aaron Rodgers has finally been traded. Finally. Yes.
It warms my heart.
So much. The drama and the wait is over. Good luck, New York. I mean, they're getting a very good quarterback. Let's not,
Of course.
We have our own reasons for disliking Aaron Rodgers and wanting this whole saga to be over with. But for real NFL, for the Jets, I mean, they've got themselves a really good quarterback. It's going to do wonders for all the fantasy pieces on their team. I think Garrett Wilson should be a easy top 10 wide receiver this year.
Yeah, I think he already was pretty much nearing that spot as long as it wasn't Zach Wilson. So now that it's Aaron Rodgers, I'd say top 6, top 7. I completely get on board with the idea of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lazard is there. They know they have that connection. Brees Hall, when he comes back from that ACL injury, Rodgers has no problems throwing the ball to the running backs. So I think it's wheels up for all fantasy relevant positions on the Jets. And I think we need to temper expectations for Green Bay as well, with Jordan Love coming in. He'll be I think a solid number 2 in a super flex league. Like if he's your second quarterback, I think he'll be fine. We'll probably have a couple boom weeks here and there, just given with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and when they draft JSN on Thursday night. Those guys have explosive playability in them. So we were talking about it last week with our high risk, high reward players and Christian Watson that, you get him a little slant or a little, intermediate route. He can take it to the house at any time. So there'll be those boom weeks there with Love. I really do like this for the running backs more so with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. I think they're going to feast this year. And I think they're probably going to end up being drafted way too low in redraft. And I will be scooping them up and taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I'll be angling for a lot of Aaron Jones. AJ Dillon will be a pretty terrific consolation prize if it comes to that. I do think that Jordan Love in this venue that is now orchestrated by the coach more so than the player potentially allows for the system that is a little bit of an offshoot of the Shanahan system to maybe thrive here. So in terms of fantasy value, I think that Jordan Love has a floor of like a Jimmy Garoppolo type, which is completely fine. As you said, especially in Superflex where you need a second reliable QB. Yeah, there could be some aches and pains here, obviously, along the way. He's played one meaningful regular season game and then like a spurt of another one against Philly last year. So, yeah, caution is the way to go. But I do think after the first few games, we'll see some sort of consistency there for fantasy. Like you said, especially after they add JSN in this draft. But I do wonder what you think about Aaron Rodgers this year for redraft with the Jets. Do you their defense is obviously fantastic. Do we think we have to see the heroics from Rodgers that make him a really solid fantasy quarterback still?
No, I think he'll be probably just outside the top 12, like 13, 14, just on the fringe of QB1, kind of what we've seen what we saw this last year. That's just my feeling. Question for you, Jake.
Oh,
Now I saw this on Twitter earlier this evening, and someone said, and I wish I could give credit to whoever asked the question. So my apologies, because I'm sure they're listening to the show right now. But they said, what if CJ Stroud, with kind of this late news that's been coming out about him, what if he kind of falls like Justin Fields did a couple years ago? And they were saying some of the teams like in the teens that could draft a quarterback or would be interested.
yeah.
What if he falls to 13 to the Packers?
I hope that the Packers would then trade back with one of those teams who really want a quarterback instead of doing the thing of taking CJ Stroud. I do not want, for real NFL and for fantasy, to have that thing of when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. And it would just put them in such a precarious situation with this poor fucking guy who's had to wait 3 years after being drafted, moved up to be drafted in the first round, has to wait, finally gets his shot. And now you're telling me that he has to compete with an even higher first round draft pick?
Right. What if they were to somehow pull a trade off that and trade Love?
I just think that would be still egregious because the trade value of Jordan Love can't be that high right now because everybody's wondering what he can actually do because they haven't really gotten to see it. I think that the chances of them netting like a first round pick for him at this point are pretty slim. So did you trade up to draft him that high just to lose that much value 3 years later? I don't know. That seems silly to me. I would rather that they trade the pick back to let somebody else take Stroud. That's just me.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there as, like I said, I saw that question pop up and I was like, well, they didn't include the Packers in there, which I get because we do have Love. He's young. He should be above. I'm expecting above average quarterback in the league. Here's hoping for striking lightning 3 times in a row with quarterbacks. So we get another Hall of Famer, but I'm not expecting that. Not expecting that, but you never know. It could happen again. But yeah, so I just thought that was an interesting question that I'd pose to you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also hate it. I also hate that you brought it up and made me think of all the bad possibilities that could happen with this ridiculous GM here. So nothing is out of all possibilities, I guess, but I would hate it.
Okay. Well, Jake, should we? I mean, I feel like we already kind of started the main event. Just talking some mailbag stuff there with the Aaron Rodgers news and fantasy implications. But
let's do it legit, Mike.
Yeah, let's hit it.
All right, let's keep it going with the draft questions here. This one comes to us from Ginger. I think it's Gingerbread Man or Ginger Beard Man. I never know. It's Richard
I'm saying
Sickles.
Beard.
You think?
Because it's B3RD, not BR3RD.
So you think that's Beard?
Beard. Bread has an R in it.
Beard Man. I don't know. Anyways, Ginger B third man. I don't know. But what they're asking is if one exists, where is a landing spot for Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver from Ole Miss, that would have you needing to leave rookie drafts with him? That's a very strongly phrased question. What's one spot where you have to take Jonathan Mingo if he goes there? So big-bodied wide receiver. Dustin, you and I never claimed to be rookie pros. That doesn't even make sense. But you know what I'm saying? Rookie analysts to a certain degree. But I do think Jonathan Mingo is interesting because I've heard folks talk about, obviously, Ole Miss has this track record with big-bodied guys coming out, proving to be alphas on teams. You got your DK Metcalf, you got A.J. Brown, but Jonathan Mingo seems like he's going to be somewhere in the beefy middle of this draft for where NFL teams value him amongst wide receivers. We're talking about all these really small, kind of speedier guys that are getting all the love, where a little bit bigger guys like him might be falling. Is there a team that stands out where you're like, oh yeah, they could use a big, maybe contested catch kind of guy? Dustin's frozen because he's so excited about the prospect of Jonathan
No,
Mingo that
sorry.
he can't contain himself.
My
Place that stands
computer's
out.
being dumb tonight.
Classic dumb
I
computer.
don't know. I'm trying to look up to see where. Oh, so one mock draft I just pulled up is that they actually have him going in the second round to the Packers.
You just can't get
And-
away from the Packers.
It's literally, I literally just pulled up NFL.com, their 7-round mock draft,
Yeah.
and they have him going at 45.
Look, it would
I
be
don't know. I
great
don't
to
know
get
that there's
him
any
another.
team that
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say.
No, I don't know that there's. You're such a dick. Oh.
Anyways, my God, I don't know what's happening here, but I do think that there's a few teams that would be great for him. Packers, yeah, I mean, just throw every wide receiver at him at this point. I would love nothing more than if they took like 6 wide receivers throughout the draft, just as Aaron's on his way out. Just grab everybody, throw them in there. And you can always use a big-bodied guy, kind of a safety blanket guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as far as any team that really sticks out, oh god, like Baltimore could use a good big-bodied wide receiver. They always need wide receiver help. It'd be nice, like the Colts. I know people are high on Alec Pierce, but I mean, I think that could be interesting. The Falcons need wide receiver help, and if he's going in the second round, I think that'd be a good pick for him. I mean, there's a bunch of teams. I don't know that there's any one team in particular that if he went there, I'd be like, gotta go. I mean, yeah, you could say Buffalo or like Kansas City, but even then, it's like, I don't know. There's not one team that I would feel super great with him going there that I would absolutely have to leave the draft with him.
I have one team for me that if he goes there, he would move up my draft board pretty huge, and that's the Vikings. The Vikings still need to replace Adam Thielen. I don't know. I'm not as sold on KJ Osborne, and that's going to be a lead into our next question here, but I really do think that Jonathan Mingo on the Vikings could do a lot of damage, whether it's with Kirk Cousins or even if the Vikings trade up for one of these quarterbacks of the future, which I've heard being talked about as well for the eventual Kirk Cousins replacement. I love the idea of him with the Vikings. I think that they need somebody like that. I think that he would do extremely well there. The other spot is like, I guess if he goes to the Panthers, I'd be okay with him there just because there's not a ton of competition there right now. You know, Adam Thielen is there, so he could compete with him and a bunch of old crafty vets. But yeah, I think that's the only team that would have me really, really high on him. So,
Okay.
Mr. Scampers in the chat, shout out to you. Good evening. Beefy Middle is a sweet nickname, by the way. Like Iron Curtain or Legion of Boom. I think it's just snugly in between those two, if I may say so myself. All right, next question here. Talking about KJ Osborne, Mike Bruiser asks, can KJ Osborne replace Adam Thielen?
Well, to a certain degree, yes. They're two different players, but we saw KJ Osborne 2 years ago have some very fantasy relevant weeks. He went on that tear for about 3 or 4 weeks and then kind of fell off. But now that Thielen's gone, can he step into that role and produce at a high fantasy level? Sure, he definitely can. But I don't think you would see quite the heights that we saw with Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen was a special player, had his very specific role in that offense, and they were able to maximize that. Justin Jefferson's the number 1. Now Hawkinson's the number 2 there. So I think at best KJ would be the third option receiving wise. So Well, yeah, he's going to be fantasy relevant. I just don't think you can expect prime Adam Thielen numbers from him.
Yeah, I'm just not sold on KJ Osborne. If they give him an opportunity, could he replace Adam Thielen's fantasy production? Yes. Will they give him that opportunity? I don't think so. I think that they do add via the draft here. Like I said, would love Jonathan Mingo there, but there's a bunch of other guys that I could see going to the Vikings. So I would say no, Mike, but that's just me personally. This one comes from Angry Elf 216. What would you recommend to do with Jameson Williams in Dynasty? So Jameson Williams, we didn't talk about really, but 6-game suspension for betting on college games while at an NFL facility. So he did not get the full year like Calvin Ridley did because it was slightly different circumstances. Although 6 games for that is still obnoxious to me, but it is what it is. In Dynasty, though, does this really move the needle for you much with Jameson Williams?
Nope, not at all. He's a hold. If you drafted him like I did in one league, you basically were without him all last season while he was recovering from that ACL. Yeah, we saw him have 2 receptions and 2 touchdowns in 2 games last year, which were really great to see. But if you made it the entire season last year, nothing has really changed to change his value at this point. So what's another 6 games without him at this point? If anything, it allows him to stay healthy and make sure that ACL is fully repaired and game ready, I guess. I don't know. No, it does nothing for me dynasty wise.
Yeah. I think it's a bit silly that people would be reacting in a way that's changing his value at all. I just don't get it.
I mean, if you feel like the owner or the GM in your league is down on Jameson Williams, I mean, you can get him at a discount, then go for it and do it. I mean, that's what I would recommend is that if you think that GM is down on them because of this news, then try to take advantage of that.
I just feel like every time something like this happens and we rely on Twitter for our reactions of values, people just pontificate without really assessing their own individual value and if they would move him differently in their leagues. And it's just like this boy who cried wolf situation every time something like this happens. I think if you go try to trade for him right now, assuming that his value has dropped off, you're going to be given a rude awakening here. So I don't know. Don't go lowballing people for Jameson right now.
No. I think you can get a discount, but yeah, don't. I mean, you're not going to be able to get him for like a 3rd round pick or something. That's not going to fly. But I think you could probably get him cheaper than you would have prior to this news coming out.
Well, here's a question from Scampers in the chat. Let's put a value to it right now. In a 1 QB league, how high of a pick would you need to trade Jameson Williams away in Dynasty? Both sides seem so reactionary. I agree with you on that, Scampers. So how high of a pick would you want for Williams?
I would probably, assuming it's a 12-team league, we'll just say it's a standard 12-team, I would want, like the 107, 108, 109 in that range. I think that's where he was going in a lot of leagues last year, maybe a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah.
I think I got him, the league I got him in, I think I had him at the 106 last year.
Was that in Superflex or was that in
in
Superflex?
Superflex.
Yeah. So 1 QB, you're probably talking about some people taking him as high as the 103, just depending on where they fell with their evaluations, I suppose, of the wide receivers.
Yeah.
I don't know. That does seem high though, but people did love him.
Yeah. So like I said, I mean, if you could get a mid first for him, I think that'd be excellent. Expecting a high first. Like I said, maybe in the right circumstance and you're in the right league, you could get that done. Someone's really high on him, but I think you're looking for a mid to late first at best.
Yeah, I guess I was never as high as the consensus was on Jameson Williams to start with. So I don't need as much as the average bear, but I don't have him to be able to trade away in my leagues because of that either. So I'd accept pretty much any back end 1st round pick, 110. I would do that probably even in a 1 QB league, honestly. But that's just me. I wouldn't do a 2nd for him. He's still too valuable for that. for sure, even with my low estimation of him. But yeah, definitely a first round pick there.
I mean, like 110 would be like the bare lowest I would go.
Yeah.
Unless you were getting like a second round pick added in on top of it, you're getting a couple picks for him then, but just straight up anything less. I mean, even 110's pushing it for me.
Sure.
So that's kind of my breaking point there.
We would make a good trade partner candidate in that situation.
Yeah,
probably only in that situation. Here's one from Rennie Bear on Twitter. In Superflex, which QBs do you value ahead of Justin Jefferson? Is Justin Jefferson the highest valued non-QB? So start with the first question here. How many quarterbacks does it take to get to Justin Jefferson? How many
to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll
lollipop does it take here? This is a great question. And I do think that Justin Jefferson is almost the highest valued non-QB. I have a caveat to that. I think right now,
is it
prior
Jamar Chase?
to the drafts, no, I think it's Bijan Robinson. I think rookie Bijan Robinson still is the highest valued non-QB in a super flex league right now until the pick happens. The 101, so it's not Bijan, but it's the idea of Bijan, is the highest valued non-QB asset to me right now. But Justin Jefferson is number 2 to me. Would he be your first? I guess let's start there.
He would be the like 1A, 1B. Like I said, Jamar Chase would be right there between the two of them. I feel like you're splitting hairs.
I think it's a pretty big hair in my opinion, but
well, maybe for you, but not for me, in my humble opinion. I'm trying to get this pulled up here, but none of my technology wants to work. Jake,
go with your heart. Well, let me start with a list here. There's the obvious one.
So yeah. So let me get back to Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase here. Okay. Since I'm just throwing all the technology out the fucking window and just free balling it here the rest of the evening. I know Jamar's had a couple of the injuries, and Justin Jefferson has been just electric they've both been electric since they stepped in the league. Yeah. I feel like the injury was a fluky thing for Jamar. They both, the only thing that I like about Jamar's situation slightly better is that he's got Burrow, who's a younger quarterback they're going to be tied together for a number of years for what it looks like. Kirk Cousins, this could be his last year in Minnesota, and we don't know who Justin Jefferson's going to be playing with after this. Not to say that lesser quarterback, we've seen lesser quarterbacks hold up stud wide receivers before.
Right.
See DeAndre Hopkins all those years in Houston, so I'm not saying that that's going to be a death knell for them. That's why I have them very close. Cause it's just like, I can see, few years down the road, the stability there versus Justin Jefferson, but Justin Jefferson is just electric whenever he gets, like I said, splitting hairs in my opinion.
That's fair. I think that sometimes the promise of Jamar Chase is so great, and if he hits that, fucking fantastic. I need to see that little extra bit between his promise and what his actual ceiling is, whereas with Justin Jefferson, we just keep seeing it.
Right.
And so for me, it's like, I'm going to take that guy. I'm going to take the proven thing there. But even with that aside, so which quarterbacks do you value ahead of Justin Jefferson? Let's get the couple obvious out of the way, right? Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, for sure. Right? There's no argument there. Okay.
Yep.
If we go down the list a little bit more, Jalen Hurts, still ahead of him, right? Justin Herbert.
Yes.
Okay. And how about Justin Fields? I think this is where it maybe gets interesting.
Yes.
Okay. So still Fields for you. How about Trevor Lawrence?
Probably. It's getting tougher. I'd say probably.
How we're probably going to start diverging a lot on player values here, but how about Kyler Murray?
Yes.
Still valuing him above Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. I mean, quarterbacks, and in super flex, quarterbacks are just, you got to get them early, or you almost never have a good quarterback. So that's why. It's not that I don't think either. Those players aren't great. Like Justin Jefferson, I'd love to have him on a team.
Yeah.
But if it's in the first round, even in the late first, and I got to go for him or a top quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about your philosophy when you're playing. And for me, I'd rather take the quarterback than get a wide receiver, because we see, there's a lot of young wide receivers in the league right now. There's always young guys coming in that you can, work the draft to get them coming up. Will they be at the caliber of a Justin Jefferson? Probably not, because he is
Special.
elite. Yeah, but you could get pretty darn close and make up that production elsewhere. Where quarterback, it's harder to make up that production, in my opinion.
That's true. I skipped over a couple of obvious ones, by the way. Apologies. Joe Burrow, I'm going to assume, is absolutely over him. Lamar Jackson, I'm assuming, even with the issues we talked about in the drug trade, he's over him.
Yep.
Here's one I'll throw out, because I think this is a pretty good dividing line, maybe, is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott kind of seems a little bit like a really good quarterback for Dynasty, but nobody's sold, I don't think, on him and his upside long-term for Dynasty. So is that an area where you'd go, man, the upside of Justin Jefferson is so much that I can do that?
Yeah. At that point, because we're looking at probably we're in like the 10 to 12 range right there.
He's QB 11 in terms of current Dynasty rankings.
Yeah.
Consensus.
So at that point, yes, I would probably take Jefferson over Dak, and then maybe hope that he would slide at the turn in the draft. If we're at that 10, 11, 12 spot, or at the 12, you can take whoever. I would personally take then Jefferson in the second round, just to be able to say I got him in the second round. But
of course you would. It's all about the aesthetic.
No. That's right. But no, at that point, I think Dak is probably my delineation point there, where I would start to look at other players other than quarterback, especially a young wide receiver like Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I pretty much have him. For me, he's pretty much in lockstep with Trevor Lawrence to me. And I love Trevor Lawrence.
And I don't blame anyone if they wanted to take him after the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks. Honestly, I don't fault anyone. I wouldn't hate the move at all. It's all, like I said, your own personal draft strategy. He's definitely worth it. But for me, like I said, that's just not my personal flavor. But I wouldn't fault anyone. I think that's a terrific choice anywhere in that first round.
Yeah. Scampers in the chat asking dynasty or redraft. I believe this was a dynasty centered question, but it is interesting for redraft. If you were doing a Superflex redraft, I think the philosophy changes just in maybe almost the opposite way, because you can piece together some really quality wide receivers for 1 year that are the older guys that maybe you don't have to, like Justin Jefferson. His appeal for me in Dynasty is I want the top wide receiver not having to do that all of the time. Superflex, especially redraft, you still have to put together 2 quarterbacks every single week, and you don't want to be stuck holding on to some of these. Well, you would sure love to. You don't want to be the guy stuck with Ryan.
I'm saying you don't have to
as your second QB, though.
That is one of the fallacies of Superflex, is that you have to start 2 quarterbacks. No, you don't. It makes life a hell of a lot easier. You don't have to worry about playing for upside every week when you have the upside of the 2 quarterback scores. So,
yes.
So yes, your point is taken though.
Fair. Let's move over to this one from Florkilla on Twitter. Why does everyone think the Packers will draft a wide receiver now in the first round after historically never doing such a thing just to spurn an ex-lover? We talked about this a little bit, but I would love to dive into it more with you. What do you think the rationale is here for taking, let's say, JSN at number 13 if he's on the board?
I would say the rationale is that the Packers have a very good defense. Or let's just say they have a lot of the pieces in place to be a very strong defense this year. They've got a solid offensive line. They've got a great tandem of running backs. They've got young wide receivers. They've got their quarterback. So what other position do you really need? I know I've seen Kincaid mocked to the Packers multiple times, which
Yeah,
please
I wouldn't
God,
love
that
it.
would be one of the worst things I think to
Yeah.
happen. So it just makes sense. And then if you can get a stud who is, one of the highest rated wide receivers in this draft at 13, where typically they go a little bit earlier than that, I think, the Packers would be dumb to pass on that opportunity. So that's
Yeah,
why.
it's not an all or nothing deal. I don't think like they have to, like they're
No, no,
forced to
no.
do this. But I do think that the philosophy is pretty sound in doing it. It's not just to spurn Aaron Rodgers. Would that be a little bit of a cherry on top? Sure, absolutely, and I'd eat it up. But the actual heart of it is that you have this quarterback who has three guys who you can consider even relevant for wide receivers right now, and they were all rookies last year. Those three guys, and one of them was drafted in the 7th round last year. And then you've got no disrespect, but essentially practice squad guys who right now are considered to be the 4 and 5 receivers because there's no other depth there right now. It would be foolish to evaluate this long-term investment that you've held on to for 3 years without giving him a proper set of weapons to do so. So I think that that's the legitimate argument. Investing in defense, it's always a good idea, but you're not evaluating your defense this year. You kind of know what to expect out of the season. If you sneak into the playoffs, cool. That's great, but it's not the likely outcome. Here's what I want to talk about, though. Aaron Rodgers, when he took over in 2008 for the Packers, this is the wide receiver room that he worked with. Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson, James Jones, and Jermichael Finley, who is one of the best tight ends that the Packers have ever had. That's a much better situation to evaluate your first season of a quarterback with, as opposed to what's going on right now. So that's my argument.
Yeah, and I mean, and as great a prospect as like Kincaid and Meyer are, you don't want to be drafting a first round tight end that early.
Yeah.
And when we know it takes at least a couple of seasons for tight ends to get acclimated to the league. I mean, look at even the Wonder Boy Kyle Pitts.
Right.
I mean, he had a very good rookie
right.
season. Don't get me wrong. He had a very good rookie season, but it wasn't what we were all expecting. And he kind of regressed this last year. I think part of that, or a lot of it, has to do with the coaching staff there down in Atlanta. I don't fault him at all for that. But the fact remains is Atlanta used the number 4 pick in the draft on him, or number 5 pick, something like that. It was very high.
It was high.
And, you still hadn't seen that elite return that I think people were expecting. So for the Packers to draft in the top 15, a tight end, I just don't see that. That just wouldn't be a good use of that pick.
It would feel icky to me. It would just feel icky to me. So yeah, I agree with you there. All right, let's move on from this. Let's do a couple of dynasty team evaluations now. We got sent in a couple of these rosters we want to take a look at from folks on Twitter. So let's start us here with Mr. Jared Brewington at OMG It's J Brew. Sent this in, wants us to look over this roster. It's a 12-team Superflex PPR, no tight end premiums, nothing with tight ends in this. Says going into year 5, made the playoffs the past 4 years, but isn't sure if he should continue to push or take a year to reload. A couple of picks, has the 106, has the 204. But as we look at this Superflex league, what jumps off the page to you here?
Just first blush here, because this is the first I'm actually seeing the roster. I would say, if you've made the playoffs the last couple of years, keep making that push. I mean, you got Lamar, you got Tua, and you got Tyler Huntley. Good quarterbacks there. I mean, you got your 2 starters as far as quarterbacks go. Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift. You got Javonte Williams coming off of, that injury.
Mm-hmm.
Who else do we have here?
Got Juju Smith-Schuster, have Cole Kmet, have Hollywood Brown, DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill, Michael Pittman. It's a pretty
Mark
decent
Andrews
of receivers. The running backs, DeAndre Swift, I think that we know where you fall on him. We're going to be split there, and Josh Jacobs as the primary running back. I fear we're going to give him two very different answers on this.
Okay. So I feel like make the push. Keep going for, you're in the playoffs. You have a good squad. Javonte comes back, and say he comes back healthy, maybe not to start the year, but say a month into the season. He comes back and he's looking like Javonte. You'll have 3 top 15 running backs on your squad, which is really nice for Superflex. And then, it's a start 2 running backs. Your wide receivers are okay. Outside of Tyreek Hill and DJ Moore, I'm not in love with the rest of them, but they're fine. Marquise Brown, hopefully he bounces back this year. Juju, we'll see what happens in New England. Michael Pittman hasn't quite lived up to expectations, so I feel like the wide receiver room's slightly weak. I love your tight ends, Mark Andrews, Cole Kmet, as a solid backup for the bye week. There's no premium, so you really don't need more than that as long as Andrews stays healthy. So I think you have a decent squad. I would just maybe try to consolidate some of those bench pieces and maybe try to take Pittman and some of those bench pieces and upgrade your wide receiver position to try to get another stud wide receiver on your team to really round out the wide receiver core.
Yeah. I think, having the 106 can help with that. That rookie pick can help. In fact, we were just talking about what the value of a 106 should be in a super flex before hopping on here, because I'm trying to work out a trade right now involving Josh Jacobs, actually, for the 106. And
is this your team?
This was all a big ruse. No, what I think is interesting, though, is I see a lot of question marks on this team. I see a ton, because once you get past the initial one at each position, yes, I love Lamar Jackson, obviously. Mark Andrews, fantastic. Tyreek Hill, stud for 2 years, at least, right? Then he's retiring. He called it already, retiring after 2 years. You start to get through some of these other pieces. I have a lot of questions. DJ Moore, we really hope when he goes to Chicago, he is going to be at least as consistent as he's been in Carolina. We hope and we believe that. There's a world where he's not, where he falls to wide receiver 3 status in terms of fantasy because of the structure of the team and how they do it. It's very possible. I don't want it to happen, but it could happen. Michael Pittman, very consistent guy. Right? He's been a wide receiver 2 type of fella, but he's not a stud. DeAndre Swift, I have my well-known qualms about. Josh Jacobs, still not signed his franchise tag. It might be nothing, but he's the most cryptic fucking running back in social media always, ever. He could try to push out for a trade. Tua, we know what Tua's potential issue is with the concussions. Hollywood Brown, I don't know, man. I wanted to be a believer, but I'm kind of fading out on him. And now Javonte Williams, who we've talked about, this might not be his year. 2023 might be his year because of the distance away from the injury that he needs. Or not 2023,
2024. Yep, I don't
know years. I don't fucking know years. But it might be a year off, and so you might be able to trade him away for peak value now without people thinking about it, and then get him maybe even back next year halfway through when he underperforms or something like that, So I see this as a great opportunity to reload. But I think either way, you got to make the decision all in. You either have to go all into rebuilding this team or all into winning that championship for one more year as a push. But we're split. We're split, man. Sorry, Jared.
Take that as you will.
So let's look and see if we can help Dan get some more consensus love here. So Dan's in the exact same situation, by the way. It's Superflex Dynasty PPR, no tight end premium.
Okay.
This roster is Boy, this one is interesting here. So as you get a chance to look at this, let me just say that he has the 104, the 105, the 106, and the 110 all this year in the rookie draft. So a lot of play to happen in this rookie draft. Anything that jumps out to you?
And you said this was a super flex?
That's correct.
All right. So let's see. Quarterbacks, we've got Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, Tannehill, Jameis Winston, Jeff Driscoll. So solid 1-2 punch there. If you've got the 104, you can take your pick of whichever of the top 3 rookies are there to kind of help bolster that position, which I really like. And then let's see, Aaron Jones, Elijah Mitchell. It's very small on my screen, Jake. We got Dearness Johnson, Devin Singletary, Chuba Hubbard. Not
Terry
much.
Davis Price. There's a lot of bench type of guys here, which is okay.
And then wide receivers, we got Garrett Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson. Who else?
Van Jefferson, KJ Hamler, if you're into that sort of thing.
Greg Dulcich.
Yeah. Tight ends, Trey McBride is a rookie from last year that I think had a decent amount of hype and should have an opportunity now that they're maybe paving the way for the young players in Arizona. And then Juwan Johnson, Logan Thomas.
Jelani Woods.
Woods. It's fine. You, like probably 10 other teams in your dynasty league, have upside at tight end and not a lot else. So you're in good company there.
Yeah.
I see this.
And then I see we still have kickers in this league too.
The kickers are actually just stand-ins for the rookie picks. He said.
Okay.
So
okay.
Those are just, they had to draft. I'm assuming this was startup rules. So
no, and that's how a league I just did. It was IDP, or we did IDP players for it. So okay, I was gonna say, wow, kickers too. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I got 4.
You don't see many of those.
That would be an excess. I think even for kicker enthusiasts, 4 would be an excess amount. But do you have a pretty firm direction here on anything that can be done? It didn't specify. Dan did not specify, but I'm just assuming all in here this year. It looks like a good enough roster to compete for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any moves, anybody on this team that you think, ooh, you should be trying to move that player?
Oh man, you know what? I mean, I would really want to bolster the running back position. And whether you can take some of that ammo you have with the 4 first-round picks and move up to the 101 to get Bijan, I think would be a great move here because you're pretty solid at wide receiver. You're starting wide receivers. You got good quarterbacks. Like I said, I try to keep the 104 to see if you can't get one of those, whoever of the odd man out of the top 3 quarterbacks is in this draft, just to help give you some depth there. But I would try to go after Bijan, or if the person that has the 101 is like, no, I'm drafting Bijan, go after someone like Saquon Barkley, or try to get like a CMC or something that one of those top running backs. Go after Jonathan Taylor. His value is really depressed right now. Because that's where I feel like your biggest hole is in this team is with the running back position. It'd be nice if you could try to make a trade for a tight end. Maybe the Kelsey owner is willing to, trade the 110 for him. Might be a little bit steep for a couple year rental, but if you're getting the number 1 tight end in the league, it'd be worth it if it helps you get that championship. So I'd look at upgrading those 2 positions. But yeah, you've definitely got the ammo to do that in this draft, which I really like.
I agree with your sentiment, and I think I would add something to that process. I think with all of those picks, you can absolutely do a package deal to try to move up, or get somebody like I would throw out another couple of names. I would even throw out somebody like let's say J.K. Dobbins. I think you could absolutely move those picks to get somebody like J.K. Dobbins and not have to spend a high pick, or you could get quality on top of him, I think, right now, because this should be the prime year based on his distance from injury. or
Yep.
even if people have their worries about Austin Eckler because of his contract thing, if you can try to get him. But I also think this is prime time, if you need to diversify a little bit, is to trade somebody like Garrett Wilson. His value is literally never going to be higher than it is at this moment post Aaron Rodgers trade. There's still some very big questions there, I think, with Garrett Wilson. Yeah, he should be great this year. And I said, like, after adding Aaron Rodgers, I could see this year, if you want to make him your top 7-8 guys and wide receivers, yeah, for sure. But somebody else might value him as a top 3 wide receiver. And Aaron Rodgers could only be there for one season and then bail. And then they're right back into looking for a quarterback again. So you could get somebody who's a little bit less flavor of the month for wide receiver. That's just as good. But you could then either add draft capital or another player. Like if you moved Garrett Wilson to, let's say, Chris Olave, you would get something else on the other side with Chris Olave. And I think that it could easily be an even trade without it.
Right.
So I would do something like that.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Or like, you're saying package it, do Garrett Wilson and your 110 pick for the 101, get Bijan, and then you could still draft at the 105, 106. You could still get JSN, Addison, basically your pick of the wide receivers at that point. You could draft a couple of them with the 105, 106. So, and kind of restock with some more youth there while still getting the 101 overall. So yeah, I like that. I think he would be an interesting piece to move that probably has a lot of interest out there in your league.
Yeah, a couple of great undervalued players on this team that you just have to hold because you wouldn't get anything for them, but I like them anyways. Aaron Jones, we talked about already. Chris Godwin, I think, is just going to go underappreciated because I know that it looks gross at quarterback in Tampa Bay. You have to just wait that thing out. Chris Godwin's too great. He's shown that he's too great. Even coming back from that injury last year, he got right back into the thick of things. So,
well, that, and I think
him.
Deontay Johnson as well. Like he's just undervalued at this point, and all he does is he's a PPR machine. He's just catches balls, and with another year in the system with Pickett and in that offense, it should only get better. So yeah, I think he's got some good value on that team, and definitely in a compete and win now mode.
Yep, I love it. Also, just shout out to Jelani Woods. We know I'm a well-respected tight end analyst on this podcast. So Jelani Woods to the moon is what I'm understanding right now.
That's right.
He's going to crater and be out of the league in a year and a half.
Don't you put that evil on him.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean that, Jelani. I want to believe. It's just, it never works out that way.
Okay, Jake, any last questions, or is that it for the show sheet for this week?
That is the show sheet. That is the list of questions for us.
All right. Well, I think this was a nice show here leading into the draft. Coming up here after the draft, what do we got? Probably do some post landing spot analysis, which should be a lot of fun. We'll get some people on here, at least one guest that is very familiar with the rookies and really scouts them to really give us good in-depth analysis along with our armchair analysis we have here. But then shortly after that, we're going to be getting into our divisional breakdown series, which I'm really looking forward to. Those are just a ton of fun, getting on homers from every team, every division. That's where the rubber really meets the road here in our off season, really getting into the team by team analysis. So I can't wait for that to start. Those are probably my favorite episodes of the entire off season.
Heck yeah. And we're gonna have a lot to talk about. This has already been a pretty big year in terms of just shifting around of things, trades, free agency, etc. And it's only going to get crazier. So lots and lots to come.
Yep. But as always, folks, 5 stars, subscribe to us, all those good things. It helps people find us. Tell your friends. Join us live every single week. It's a lot of fun. Join us in the chat. We'll answer your questions, all that sorts of good stuff. And until next week, folks, enjoy the NFL draft.
Woo! Cheers, FFers.
Drunk. 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 Drunk.